Okay, we're live. Zander and Mike just broke an unofficial world record for the most ridiculously rough and longest triathlon in the history of the world. They swam Robben Island to Cape Town, which is a 7.5k swim in shark-infested, icy cold waters. They cycled the cycle tour formerly known as the August, which is now the Cape Town cycle tour of like 130 kilometers. And then they ran the 13 peaks. Now, if you're from Cape Town, you know what that means. If you're not, that is a 106 kilometer run with 6,000 meters of elevation. That's running to the top of Cape Town from the beach 6 times in a row. And you did it all in one sitting with like 2 30-minute naps. And it took 56 hours and 56 minutes. Guys, apart from being absolutely crazy, it's wonderful to have you. Can you please tell me what on earth made you do that?
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was quite a long journey before we got to that point. I think we're both in our master's year last year, and having something aside from just being these sort of boring academics was something that's always been a part of us. We were both sportsmen at school, and we did various sort of triathlon-based activities last year. Then we got to a point where we just felt we needed to challenge ourselves, and so me and Zander were chatting on WhatsApp, and then we were messaging each other and we said, let's just pick the 3 hardest things. We're also planning on leaving Cape Town in the future, and it would be nice to, for studies, etc. It would be nice to maybe do some iconic things before we leave. And then we started messaging each other. And I think I was like, let's do 3 things. And I named the swim, the cycle, and then the run. But obviously, they're like, we were just throwing these back and forth, and I was like, yeah, it'd be a really nice 3 days. And then Zander was like, well, it could be. And then we're like, or we could just do them all back to back to back, you know. And I think Zander's being who he is was like, well, now that we've said that, we definitely can't take a break between them. And I think, Zander, so you brought up this, there was that other event, I'm trying to think what it was called, and we were toying between the 2. And while we were doing that, it was someone else's event, and it seemed really cool and also very difficult. But we kind of fell in love with this idea of this thing that you were coming up with. And then it sort of just took, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we said we were going to have a meeting, just the 2 of us. And
Yeah.
we were going to discuss at this meeting what it is that we're going to do and what our challenges that we're going to do together. And so we had this proposal, and it was the Night and Extreme Triathlon, which is actually a pretty cool event.
Yeah.
They market that as the toughest triathlon in Africa. So it's also...
Yeah, but they didn't know.
No, they had no idea.
And like we even said we're going to voice record this meeting so that we can like look back on it and maybe use it. But I think it was the shortest meeting in the history of the world, because like we sat down and within 5 seconds we were both like, okay, it's not good.
Like, what are we doing here? Yeah. We need to be training for 13 peaks, what we need to be doing. So let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, let's get out and go. So tell me about the training. Oh, sorry, was there more you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I kind of, you're asking also, so that's kind of like the journey about how this idea got pitched. But behind that, there was a lot of, I think, like very serious like motivations to this about who we are and why we wanted to do this in the first place. So that was like, I think, like a funny story about how we decided on what to do. But that goes, I think, really deeply. So like that was only a conversation as part of the journey that Mike and I had throughout the year of training, and actually part of the journey of our lives and how we see the world and who we want to be. And so a lot of that has to do with, as Mike said, we're both have taken health and fitness very seriously for our whole lives, and it's a deep part of who we are. And this was meant to be a part of that journey of understanding our bodies better, of challenging ourselves, and of being healthy both mentally and physically, especially in a year where we had our masters and it was really busy and challenging already. And like being fitness and training is an important part of managing that physical and mental health. But then on top of that, I think something we share and something we like to push out each other with, which I think is an important part of friendship, is always trying to challenge yourself to the furthest possible limit that you can, and seeking the like steepest gradient of progress. And so we try and do that with training, as we do with everything else, with reading, with studies, with relationships, whatever it may be. And so trying to find a life that includes training and a goal that grounds that training to be something that really deeply challenges us. And that was a really important part of that journey. And then to share that with each other, I think that was also like a very important thing. And to be honest, like we knew that the proposal that we had was something that was like bigger than than us. And we're not professional athletes. Like we're not Brian Sands who can run 13 peaks in under 14 hours, but that's not the point, right? The point is that when we're going to go there, we're not going to be able to run in under 14 hours, but we're going to suffer a lot, and it's going to take us way longer, and we're going to be in a lot of pain. But that's also the point, right? So that we were also looking for something to really hurt us, so that through that experience, like when you're really in pain and when you're going through a lot, you're deeply, deeply challenged, you really have to have a reason for doing that, because it scrapes everything else out the window, right? It's like nothing else that remains except, why do I have to go through this? Yeah. And so what is it that remains once that has happened? Like what else do we have to cling to once you're at this point where nothing makes sense? Like, why am I doing this thing? And that is, I think, was something that we both really were really looking for. It's like, what is left there, and what is our motivation with this, and with who we are? Who are we once like everything else is wiped clean? And so that's kind of like discussions we'd had throughout. And then it was like, okay, well, how do we ground these things that we're looking for with something, with an event?
Yeah, just to add to that, Zan, so I think I think when we started being quite open about this, like publicly on social media and stuff, which we're not very good at, then the first thing that we said we needed to write is try and make it quite explicit that we don't think we're just going to go and crush this thing. We're not going to go run 30 weeks, like Zander's saying. The whole point is that we aren't professional athletes. We're just students. But also, we have to pick something that's unbelievably challenging and actually just flipping scary, because if it's not, then it's not going to shape our lives, and it's not going to shape the process that we want to take out of this thing in the months leading up to it. So let's share in our lives, so from a mindfulness perspective and emotionally, which also helps with our academics, and the outcome lands up being this beautiful event that we've built. And then also we've trained really hard for it. It's created structure. It's helped. I mean, me and Zans are both very good years academically, which is interesting, which I don't think we would have had to the same degree if we didn't have this intensity of training. But then also, like Zans was saying, once you get there, then you've got this thing that you've put so much effort into that you have to give 110%, and then you reward yourself when the event actually arrives in other well. And that was a big part of it for us.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I hope people listening will take away from that what I am, which is the fact that often people say like their plate's too full, and when you guys basically just made your plates bigger, because you're saying that actually like forcing this triathlon into your life, your focus in other areas, and made you more productive and achieve a better outcome, not just athletically, but in academics and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely did. Yeah.
It's like, I want to say it's funny, but it's not really funny how that happens. And it sounds like it doesn't make sense, but it really does. And more motivated, and you have more purpose in your life. Like that spills over. Life is a lot about momentum. Have those things. Like if you just put in a really hard training session, you're not going to go back home and not do the work that you need to do, because
you're pumped. Yeah.
Work and
Also, so here's the thing: is you said that when you were planning this thing, you wanted to like go to the dark place and find that extra something.
Yeah.
And I'm keen to know what that was. So
me and Zander love the dark place. That's what.
The pain cave, the dark place is wonderful. Yeah. But like, what is what did you find to motivate you? And I think like after this, we'll get into the data, because I'm sure people just want to know like about the pain and everything. But you're sitting and you're like, I know you hurt your knee, which we'll talk about just now. what was it that you in the sort of final quarter where things must have been properly hectic for you?
In the event itself.
Yeah.
So it sounds very weird, and I think we can go and be quite open, and you'd have to be. So we kind of wanted to suffer, and that's what I'm saying. Everyone's like, "Oh, suffer," or whatever, in a productive way. So we wanted to put ourselves in a frame of mind or state of mind where we really could go and learn things about ourselves that you aren't able to on a sort of daily basis. And I think training-wise, I think you suffer in similar ways to some degree than you itself. So doing certain pieces and the training, I think you said we'll speak about. But we actually, it was quite interesting. The night before, Zans came and said one thing that he had to do, and I was just so happy because it's something we hadn't spoken about it a lot. But he brought his journal with, and he said, "No, I've got my journal, and I need to journal." And we'd written things down that we needed to go and deal with. We had sort of kept those quite close, and then we'll speak about Zan's run as well, I'm sure, the last 10Ks. But for us both, that was like, we almost wanted to enjoy the privilege of suffering, and in doing so, just being the best versions of ourselves. So things I'd written down were things that I needed to deal with in my life, and sort of general things, that everyone wants to deal with, marks that you get back, not being good enough in certain things. And what was amazing about this event for us is the fact that it was ours meant that the outcome was quite binary. So it's not like you're getting some time in some Ironman, all the pros are beating you. It's like you either finish or you don't. And if you finish, then you're the best possible version of yourself because you've given it everything you can, and to not finish. So with my knee as well, not finishing would have meant that everything I'd invested emotionally into this event, we built this thing, and now we're not carrying through. It's kind of like we always knew that there wasn't a choice. So there's that privilege there, and it's a weird for adding to suffering. There's a privilege of suffering and learning about yourself there. That was the whole reason we did it. I'd say that's weird explanation, but
no, I think there's a hashtag. What the privilege of suffering? Suffering is privilege. Suffering is privilege. That's awesome. Yeah. So tell me about let's talk about the actual events, because I think people dying to hear. Okay, so you launched on Jan 17th, and you went and you swam 7.5 Ks. How was the swim for you?
Oh, Zan's will say. Yeah, I think speaking about how horrible the swim was.
Really?
I'll never swim again.
And so you swam with triathlon suits, is that right?
Yeah.
I was swimming in wetsuits. Yeah.
Why was it so crap? Why didn't it go well?
No, it went well.
It went really well. I think it went better for Mike than it did for me, to be honest. I struggled a bit in the last K and a half. I wouldn't say I'm the best swimmer in the world. Tried to prepare as much as possible for that. It was beautiful. I think it's an amazing thing to do if you want to be a swimmer, or if you want to experience Cape Town, because it was also just the most beautiful morning it could ever have been.
Yeah,
they said the weather was the best it's ever been for us.
Yeah, so we were very lucky with regards to the weather. But I think neither of us are swimmers at heart, so that was kind of it was very much out of our comfort zone.
2 hours 16 for Robben Island's good. Hey, that's very good. Is that you, Mike? And then
also look at those splits. That there's a Garmin reading there that I trust, and then mine's an Apple reading, which I wouldn't take.
We swam it together, so I don't know how that.
I've got a mate who always gets.
Although he
a
lot.
It was there as well, and I think we haven't really spoken about this properly, Zans, but I know you'll agree with me completely. We were so scared of those 13 peaks. The cycle was a little bit better just because there was a novelty there. After the first, so we took a break every 600 to 800 meters. And for me, that was literally, I counted just for nutrition and short breaks, but I literally counted 250 strokes. I mean, that was all you were seeing. And then you're just tasting seals and fish. And it was The cycles, there was a bit more novelty there, and you're cycling the Cape, which is beautiful. But I think we were so scared of doing the 13 peaks.
It's just like this thing looming over you.
Like in a normal Ironman, I think, or a normal triathlon, it's like, get the swim out the way. The cycle, you kind of have to get out. You can hurt yourself a bit there. But then you're waiting to see how you feel.
So then you were doing transitions in between, and like, how hectic were you taking them seriously and taking your splits right, or were you just sort of arrive somewhere, quickly change, and then go? How did the transitions work?
The transitions were quite. The nutrition was very important. So nutrition and making sure that your body was good to go for the next event. So we weren't worried about the time there. It was like, okay, let's not take forever, but we weren't timing it or anything. Just making sure that we were rolling, like we're in good condition into the next event.
Yeah.
And then, so then you guys started running. Now you did a 6-hour Argus, and I'm assuming you guys were taking it super easy because you knew there was still quite a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming, because it's obviously not the best Argus time.
No. We had how many? We had 7 punches.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. But it was very much like, let's watch our heart rate, and let's keep. And then we also got hit with the most hectic traffic and going out towards or Simonstown. But we weren't worried about the time until the run.
There was some. I think with the swim and it's like, okay, this is we know from the start we're playing an endurance game here, and so we weren't looking to break any time records. But we needed to pay very good attention to there's still a lot lying ahead when we finish the cycle. So that's why, as Mike was saying, in the swim, we needed to take a quick nutrition break every about 800 meters or so, so that when we get out, we're not kind of depleted and now we need to take in a lot before we go on the cycle. We're properly hydrated and stuff like that. And the cycle for me was also a very novel experience, because Mike is a much more experienced cyclist than me. So it was the longest cycle I'd ever done, on top of the longest swim. So that was really cool, and it was beautiful. It was really. It was a really beautiful cycle. Actually, the second half, the wind. Once we, the wind.
That Mesquite, when you come around to that Mesquite area, which I remember well. I said to Zander, I was like, I wonder what they call this place.
But then at some point things started deteriorating a little bit, and Mike, you ran into some problems with your knee. When did that start kicking in?
So that what was quite interesting, just it adds quite nicely to what you're asking is. I was slightly better or stronger in the swim than Zanz was, and we knew that was going to happen. My background is much more cycling than it is running, so I was quite a lot stronger on the run. On the cycle, Zanz is a lot stronger on the run. So what was nice is we said, listen, we do, and we'll pull each other in our sort of our weaker areas or stronger areas. What ended up happening on the run was we did McClears ran along the back of the 12 Apostles, and as we were coming down Sekebusi, I felt I didn't know what it was, but now knowing and having spoken to the docs and stuff, I felt my ITB start to just twinge a little bit. So it started pulling. There was a weird sort of nerve pain. It's the best way of explaining it. It wasn't sore, but there was a niggle there. And I thought, I'm walking. We're walking down this thing. At this point, we can't run because coming down Sekebusi is quite hectic. Nothing's going to happen. And then in about the space of 15, 20 minutes, suddenly I just felt something like sort of, I'm going to say snap. It wasn't like there was a there, but I just had this sharp shooting pain up my whole leg. And I fell completely into my right leg. And it's one of the worst things I've ever felt in my life. And then we stacked and we tried to figure it out. And basically what happened was we took about another hour and a half to get down to the bottom of Sekebusi. It was 2Ks. And then we had a doc there, Adrian, who looked at it and he said that I'd torn part of my ITB is actually what happened, it was horrible.
Was that coming down Landadno Ravine? The back top of above the Sekebusi restaurant?
Yeah.
That is a rough descent.
Yeah. And you can't exactly just put pressure on your one leg there. So I ended up just making it, you know what I mean? which I tried, which I did very well because I was in my left knee for the last 50 Ks. But no, it was horrible. That was one of the worst.
So how far in were you when that happened?
That's what.
Oh wow!
I mean,
so you're still
like over 80 kilometers. Yeah, and that was that. At that point, it was pretty good to try and manage our emotions and then the physical element of everything, because you're quite tired already, but you're still quite focused because you're not that far into 13 peaks. So. And there's no ways we're not finishing this. We started this,
and we were moving well. We were moving really well
up until that. Yeah,
up until that point. I think we weren't doing any 24-hour 13 peaks, which we were definitely a bit of optimistic, trying to be in that range or whatever. But we were running some of the flat sections. We were taking nutrition very efficiently. Yeah. The peaks were literally just like quick selfie. Let's keep going.
Sorry.
No. So I'm keen to know, because you obviously the stronger runner, and I imagine like after being eclipsed in the swim and the cycle, you kind of like your moment comes to shine, and all of a sudden like you've kind of had Mike drop anchor, obviously in pain. Like how does that feel?
I mean, so it was never about personal achievements or things like that, So it's never about how fast like can I as an individual go and run this. If we were to do that, we would do it really. But it was always about us together. And that was obviously a massive challenge then to try and face in that moment. I remember coming down there quite late already and thinking, okay, firstly, we have a doctor down there, but there's only that much they can do if this is really serious. And there was a friend with us who had done that route, done 13 peaks before as well. And he was assisting with carrying some nutrition and stuff like that. And I remember we had a brief discussion at this point of like, okay, listen, I remember he said, his name's Sam. He said, Sam, Mike, you're not necessarily out of this. And that was kind of like a moment of, we were all thinking, you see, this is quite big. Like Mike is really struggling to even like stand on his legs at this point. He was like sliding down on his bum. Like, is he going to be, we don't really want to entertain the thought, but it's kind of there. And when Sam said that, I also just saw this kick in Mike's eyes, which was like, okay, I know this was a subconscious thought about potentially not finishing, but also, what do you mean? Let's get down there. And I remember we had this check and it was like, let's get down there. There's a doctor. We take a slightly longer break, then we get it checked out, strap it, and then when you feel ready, we go on. And then there's another peak, and we go and do that. We go and do Klein Copy. Okay, we come back. We do that. We start taking them all,
and they changed the whole dynamic of the entire.
Yeah. So one guy just believing in you, basically saying, "Nah, it's probably fine," and you're like, "Oh, okay, well."
When he said that, and he said it very tongue in cheek. He was like, well, "You're not finishing. I mean, you're not finishing." And this is coming from the guy who did the last 20 kilometers on crutches now previously. So he's had his own journey. And he's also this flipping beast. It's just like, wow. I've done this thing on crutches and your leg's a little bit sore, so let's just get done and figure it out.
That's funny. So there is a clip I just want to share with those, so it'll come on bigger now. But this is you coming down nursery. So what peak number was nursery?
We just had devils to do.
Okay, so you're now on like the penultimate sort of peak here. So there you go.
No, this is a luxury. At this point, we were so happy.
Yeah. So this is you descending, right?
Yeah. Right. So my right leg is so stuffed at this point. It's unbelievably sore, and I figured out that I can put pressure on it as long as I don't bend it. So if I'm flexing if I'm kind of flexing my quad, bending my hammy, and including too much. But also now my left leg is actually at this point more sore than my right leg.
Because it's overcompensated.
Yeah, every time I got to anything that was like higher than 30 centimeters, I'd have to do it one-legged leg press and then move my right leg onto the same platform. And I completely ruined it. And that was actually, that was really comfortable compared to walking.
Really?
So every time we got there, I was just like, oh, this is actually like, I just climbed down this ladder in this way, like a brief second where there's no pain. And it was, it was really sore. Other than that.
I wanted to ask more about that. So when you hit the flats, there's actually a clip here because I just sort of the central governor theory.
No.
So basically, when you know that you're finished, the pain goes away. And this is you like how many hours later?
This is 57 or 56 basically. I mean, this is right at the end. We took a little Audi there up to the finish.
Yeah. And there you are, like running, where a couple of hours back you were basically barely moved on the mountain.
I was very cool. What happened there is, so you asked the question earlier, Zander is a lot stronger than me on the run. Okay. And even without my knee, I think we said I was 11 kilograms heavier than Zander for the run. So he was completely destroying me up like Platter Clip Gorge, for example. I can never get it right, sorry. But then when the knee happened, then we were like, okay, well, he's really suffering here, which is exactly what I want, you know. And I started feeling like sorry for Zander in a way, because I was like, these last 10Ks, we need to do something. Like we're not going to take as long as we should. So our agreement was, I said to Zans, how are you feeling about running some of it? You know, you need to go and push yourself here. And he was like, also he kind of brought it up as well. And I think we did this whole thing, like we're going to do the whole thing together. And I think he was kind of feeling bad, like, but I haven't hurt myself as much as you have, you know? And I was like, no, I've got it, you know, if it comes from me, it's fine, which it is. It's like, well, go and hurt yourself now. Go and flip and run the fastest you can. And I'll meet you just before the end, you know, that changes nothing. So, I mean, Zander's fastest split. So we got down, basically, we came down Devils, we got to the top of Tafelberg, and that's about 8 Ks to the top of Sigmund Hill. Zander's fastest split there was like 350. He ran them all like sub 4, basically. It was disgusting. Not all sub 4, but they were all like low 4s. He ran a 315 split for one of the sections. It was stupid. You know,
so you broke a 20-minute 5K after all that at the end.
Yeah, nearly.
Pretty much. The splits are his thing, and if you see them, it's disgusting. And
that's you just running on like something completely different, you know. Like for me at that point, so along with what Mike's saying, we were coming down nursery like that, how you saw now, and I wish we had a video of this, but one of the most there were a lot of emotional moments throughout this event, and a lot of tears throughout as well, but one of the very emotional moments for me was behind Mike coming up Devils, because if you see him going down like that now, a little bit later he's now going up Devil's Peak, and that was like, okay, this is now really far. I mean, our support was struggling a lot as well. Bobby, he'd been with us at that point and had barely eaten or like consumed any sort of nutritional hydration because he was carrying everything for us. So at a point we kind of he was super dehydrated because he hadn't drunk anything in 30 hours, and we had to like, you know, also take care of him. But that just shows the dedication and supporting us. Yeah. Like, you know, so I'm behind Mike and I see just what place he's in with going through this, and like the extreme pain of both of his knees at that point completely giving in, and how he had to like crawl up Devil's Peak. And besides what he had to, like what that picture looked like, when I remember we took a photo about 100 Ks in, and seeing his face in those moments, I knew like the place that he was in. And I also felt how I was feeling, because it was early morning. We were coming down, as you saw, down Nursery Ravine, a lot of shade, and we were going a bit slower than what I otherwise would have gone. So I felt fresher, like than what I felt he was feeling, and I knew like it wasn't fair to myself, or you know, to get to this point and to finish this feeling like there's anything more I could have done. I just felt like that was that is the worst thing that could have happened, I think, is to finish and feel like you could have done more. Yeah. I remember in training, this kind of thought came up a lot for me is, okay, we've done 4 sets of something, 5, right? Well, the job of the 4 sets is kind of to put you in a place where you're allowed to really suffer and really give it everything in that 5th set. And everything up until that point had been to allow us to extract everything out of that last hour or so. And I just felt like, okay, I have a bit more to give to get everything out of this. And that's when that discussion came from, where like neither of us, we can't allow this event to pass without each of us really reaching our limits and giving everything that we have. And so when you see us running there together at the end, that's us saying like, okay, there's nothing about this event that we can anything out there. and we're pushing it all out. So there's videos of us coming in right at the end of Signal Hill, and we're like, we're completely finished. We're like,
Yeah.
it couldn't be.
Well, let me just share the contrast here. And so there was this video where you guys are like running so beautifully, and then the next clip is this video.
No, we were wrecked.
I just want you to watch Mike. and Zander barely knows.
That's my dad hugging me there, yeah.
Yeah. So going back to what Zander's saying, what's funny about this is we're articulating this like relatively well now, right? But we must have like these primitive sort of beings, because we were just granted like one wording everything. We'd sleep. I mean, you're not getting any REM sleep in half an hour. We had these 2 half-an-hour naps where you're basically just adding 1% to your tank, so you got like 2% left for the rest of the event. Sitting. The most surreal experiences was just being in nature's ravine, because it was such a weird place to be. And now we hadn't slept for 54 to 57 hours. That was the time period, and the best word we used there was that we were just insulated. So you don't know what. It's not like you're hallucinating or anything, but you seeing through these like little straws at everything that's happening in the world, and you hear what's going on, but it's like everything's in a foreign language. It's so hard to explain. So now we're trying to have these deep conversations about pushing ourselves, and I think Sam and Bobby who were with us were just laughing at what we were saying, because we couldn't make the most simple decisions. Like if you put 2 pieces of food in our hand, you'd have to tell us which one. There's too much to compute for us to have 2 different things to eat. And what's amazing about that is we still managed to get out, and we were in such a similar mindset that we both knew exactly what we were saying with, no, I'm broken right now, and I agree that you also don't need to go and be broken right now. And that was going up and then coming down devils. I think the agreement, it was so clear, was Zans, you need to go and hurt yourself now. But also, like, Zans still take half an hour to get changed and wrap my knees. And there's some footage that I couldn't find there, but we do have it somewhere, where we strapped both of my knees completely and started running. It started irritating me, but I had so much adrenaline in me that I took both those straps off completely straight away. And I was like, no, this guy's not going to flip. And if he's going to go hurt himself now, he's not also going to chill waiting for me, like just before we finish. So it was a very emotional experience, that last 7Ks. And I'm quite annoyed because it was the quickest 7Ks of the run. And for me, it went way too quickly, which is also, it sounds all cool and whatever, but genuinely it happened so quickly, and that's what we actually experienced the most.
Yeah. That is just a great stretch of running. That stretch, I can see it. It probably is the most fun to run, and you probably get some good pace. It's generally downhill from Devils to Single.
The funny thing is that coming from Devils there, I think my fastest split just from the circle as you come down Tablework Road, and then up the first part of the incline, because I remember Sam was running with me, carrying some of my water and in case I need it, or I had my camelback on still. But and I remember telling him listen, this is it. This is where the fun starts. Stick with me. And I sprinted up that first part of that hill, and my heart rate went to places that I'd never seen before, and I crashed flipping hard again a bit. Okay, or so later.
I remember you saying, so this is how insulated we were now. Zander's mindset going up that stretch, which is I think it's 8 or 9%. Was that he wasn't going to let any cars pass him while he was running up it. It's Zander, you're on your feet. What are you doing? There are cars. And he's like, no, I'm literally going to smash this thing. I remember Sam explaining it to me afterwards.
But that's awesome. An amazing thing for me. So I get to the point where I'm going to stop and wait for Mike and then join for the last bit so we finish together. And I ask someone who's supporting us, where's Mike? And he says, 1:15, so an hour 15 behind me. And I say, yes, but I'm kind of broken. There's a video of this somewhere, which will be in the documentary. But, now I'm okay. I need to not tighten up now because I'm waiting for him. And then we're going to finish this together, do the last K or so together. And I'm getting some water and everything. And then I stretch out, and then I'm no, okay, I'm going to run back. and then I'm going to go and join him for the last bit. And I turned back now after taking some just brief water and stretching, thinking he's an hour and 10 minutes behind me still. And next thing I see his dad cycling past saying he's here, he's just behind. So I turned down there. Mike is powering through. Someone is like struggling to keep up with him. And this guy's going to walk the last like 10 Ks because his knees are buggered. Here he is powering on. And then you see us there in that video joining together. And that was pretty amazing for me.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
So what did you find there? I'm interested. How did you get that extra gear?
We found everything there. There was so much adrenaline with you. What had actually happened, there was two really difficult moments for me. Coming down Seikoborsi was just physically painful. But it was kind of like, there's so many unknowns here. I know there'll be some cataflam. The doc will tell me what he's going to tell me, and it's not going to change. Just getting to the next checkpoint. Sutter's Peak was horrible. It was a horrible climb, peak to do. Then coming down to La Parada was horrible, just because it was such a long stretch. But then getting to La Parada, my phone wasn't working. And on my phone was that list of objectives that I needed to tick off and go and just be with my mind and to think about these things. And then also not having those specific songs I wanted to listen to. And then it happened like that. So I'd left all of that and I asked him to make a plan with my phone in the head before we got to the bottom of, to the top of Darkenberg Road. And that's when I got that objective. That's when I got those objectives and that music. And I literally had two songs. I played the first song once, and then I played the same. So it's just a song that's very personal to me. I played it over and over for the whole 8Ks. But reading those objectives out, I think it really it took me back to every single reason that I had done. Everything I'd struggled with, every single part of me that needed to do this event to grow was so clear up front in front of me reading this thing. And I think that acting with the adrenaline, with the lack of sleep, we just started introducing caffeine into our systems, which gave us a bit of as well. And I think all of those things together, there was no ration. It was just to get to this finish line as fast as possible, and I'm going to go and hurt myself doing it.
No, that's amazing. So, I mean, obviously super impressive. And I'm curious about nutrition, because you mentioned nutrition a few times. And I know that you were sponsored by USN. Now, what was your approach to nutrition sort of throughout training and then obviously on the event day?
Yeah. So the reason we went with USN is my dad just had quite a lot of experience with him. We went with USN because of one specific product. So it was very much, what is the best thing we can put in items? And let's just simplify everything because there's so much admin involved. Let's just take something that's really good and that's just going to keep us going. So their one product, it was just this very slow release endurance fuel, and it's got all the electrolytes and all the protein and all the low GI carbs in one shake. So we're like, we're going to take that, and then to be honest, I think we executed nutrition to a T, and we are very, very clinical with our nutrition. The only mistake we made was not introducing solids soon enough, which we caught up pretty quickly. But our main goal with the nutrition was simplicity. Let's just figure out what works, and let's just stick to that. We did the shakes actually to the bottom of Seikoborsi. We added a few bars and stuff, and then at Seikoborsi, then me and Zan started feeling like, okay, no, we need to start putting some solids into our system.
Well, I actually transitioned slightly earlier at the start of the run of 13 Peaks to taking some solids at that transition. But so just like specifically then also for the swim, as we were saying, every 600 to 800 meters we stopped, and that was, so we took the Enduro Pro, which is similar to the Epic Pro except it doesn't have protein, just to make sure, and we drank some water to make sure that we had all of our hydration and carbohydrates and electrolytes in. And then on the bike we mainly took in was one bottle of Epic Pro and one bottle of water, and we had to consume that every hour. And then at the start of the run, I think Mike was still primarily or almost exclusively on Epic Pro.
Yeah.
Until Seikabusi. I had some protein bars, or I had one protein trust bar, also the USN bar, and some bananas, and then I had like a shake that I trained on and was ready for, like, waiting for me also at Seikabusi. It was like a Future Life with water and bananas and some blueberries. And
is that your magic muti? The Future Life bananas and
that was like for my long sessions. Then I would have a Future Life with bananas and usually some blueberries.
Future Life should be everyone's magic muti.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the treat. I know, like, we're ready for it. So we relied a lot.
You know what the treat was? Sorry, and I know this is your thing. So just to quickly interrupt, what we're quite nerdy with most things that we do. So what is quite nice about the nutrition was, let's literally do this from first principles. What are we burning? What do we need to replace? And then we took it from there. So what can we take that gives us a certain amount of electrolytes and gives us energy from the carbs and the protein at certain times? And we eat very, very healthy in general. And we're very strict about, like, low GI during the event. Anything high GI is not going to do well unless it's towards the end or whatever. But when you got to La Parada, then Zander's girlfriend, had organized pizza for the guys that were helping us.
Oh, nice.
And we just heard the word pizza and we were both just like, is that for us? Yo. And then that was one of the greatest moments of the whole event, was that one slice of pizza.
Yeah. It was crazy as well, because at the previous station, which was in Silvermine, then Jess had offered us a burger. And we both looked at it and we were like, yo, that burger looks so good.
Oh, it looks so good.
Part of the nutrition strategy, we can't eat this. Like, this bread's not going to sit well with us. It's going to burn out. Like, the patty's going to be way too much.
That's cruel. That's
was horrible. She brought it like
to that, yeah.
It's a video of us looking at each other going, oh, no.
And it was so hard. We were like, Jess, just take it away, please.
But then, like, going up Constantia went really well from Silvermine, but coming down was, for me, that was my lowest point. I was like, I was burnt. I was, like, very down and out on sleep deprivation. Like, there were moments when I literally, like, nearly passed out walking, and I don't recall seeing really anything coming down there. And I was quite worried also about the, like, reception that people would have of us when we got to Constantia Neck there by La Parada. Just because, like, I didn't want people to be too worried or to try and insist that we, like, stop or something like that.
That was a time where we were both down. So normally we were able to carry each other in different times emotionally. But coming down to La Parada or Constantia Neck, we were just both.
Yeah.
I don't think we said a word for that, like, whole 2 hours coming down there.
Yeah, that was really difficult. And so there was nothing left to fight the urge to eat the pizza, but it was actually so good for us. Just that picked me up. And then Jess, I remember looking at me holding pizza man, being like, "Oh, what about the burger that you're, like, shutting me down about earlier?" And I was like, "Listen, I'm just ready to fight you right now."
Guys, it's been incredible chatting to you, and I'm afraid I've got to wrap it up. But I'm keen to ask you one more question, which is what is the next thing? What's happening now after this?
So there are a couple of things that are happening and that we're eyeing out at the moment. But something that I really want to say with this that is so awesome for me is, so we put out a video that Mike recorded beforehand, asking people to just do 25 minutes of exercise or something for themselves, because, like, inspiring people, or at least, like, I'm not saying inspiring people, but more creating communities and of people around us, that have positive effects on each other. That was kind of like one of the big goals of this. And so some people sent us, like, photos or videos of them doing a short run or something like that. That was so meaningful. And attached to that now, I live in a house with my girlfriend, my brother, and, like, one of my best friends. And they've all signed up to do the Ironman 70.3 in Mossel Bay in November. And so have I. So I'm also doing that. The other friend who's staying with me is doing a 100-mile race in end of March. And my brother is also considering doing another Ironman. So being part of that journey for them now is, like, is really cool, and seeing how people around me have taken this event and the role that they played in supporting and like supporting me and Mike with training and stuff like that, and made that their own, and now translating that into their own like events and stuff that they're doing. That is super meaningful. So something big that's next for me is, yes, I'll be doing the Ironman 70.3 at Mossel Bay, but a bigger thing with that is actually I'm like doing a lot of developing the training programs and stuff for them. And that is so meaningful to me to help them with that and to see how like strong they are and how well they're doing. And then on top of that, I'm also looking to transition a bit more to like trail running. I really enjoyed that with the 13 Peaks, and Mike and I, we both just said it was like 13 Peaks is one of the most incredible things. I can't encourage anyone to do it more strongly than I already am. And so doing things like that, or eyeing out UTCT as the 100-mile race in November is their first one. I'm still considering it, but I'd definitely like to do something at UTCT.
That sounds pretty cool.
It sounds amazing. So just making the most of the trail running in Cape Town, that's quite big. And my friend is doing the 100-mile event. We're talking about potentially revisiting 13 Peaks or doing something quite epic with that. So we're still in discussions, and we'll see how that goes. I don't want to say anything now before we've kind of really committed to it. But I think definitely a lot of cool things coming up, but mainly just like being really excited about being involved with the people around us and what they're doing.
Yeah,
awesome. And
so I don't know how much time you have left, but so I think the one thing that I just want to add to this whole experience that's actually been very so one of the biggest things we've taken from it is we went into this with me and Zander together, but sort of individually wanting to go and experience this like privilege of suffering that we were speaking about earlier, and learning the most we can about ourselves and putting ourselves in those situations. But coming out of it, we also just realized how incredible the community is that we built around us. And I think that's what Zan's saying as well. So, like roping Zan's into some of the triathlon stuff last year and us building a lot of our friendship on that in a way, and the year before. And now seeing where this has brought us, and then also all of our friends around us. But also just during the event, I think one of the biggest things was just how incredibly lucky we are to have the support systems that we have. And there's so much that we could say about that, but maybe to put it simply, we had a dinner at the yacht club the night after it. And I think as much as we try and pretend that we're these big sort of like cool dudes that are doing these events, I think we're quite in touch with our emotional side, and to seriously look around at the 17 people at the table and to say that they're all our best friends and that we love every single one of them. We're incredibly privileged and lucky to be able to say that. And the fact that they all took off, like my dad said it, he could never do that with his mates. We got our mates to leave their jobs, their girlfriends, their wives, and come and do like this cute little hike with us for 3 days in the mountains. The fact that people did that for us is just so unbelievable, and it's become such a big part of our life to realize that we now owe that to them in a way as well. So there's some support roles that we'll definitely be playing, but just from my side to finish off, someone needs to go and actually get hold of Guinness as well and take that record properly. And there's definitely potential for that in the future too.
Awesome. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Mike and Zan, unofficial world record holders of the longest, roughest triathlon in history. All the best to you guys. Congrats on your achievement. And we'll have to get you back in again when you decide to set your next record. So thanks again.
Keep well. Awesome. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure being part of it.